Have you ever taken a bite of food and suddenly felt your spirit sink, your energy shift, as if something invisible clamped down on your soul? What if I told you that not every meal is just food, that sometimes what you eat is not meant to nourish you but to bind you, weaken you, or even curse you? Because when you eat food cooked by a witch, you're not just eating ingredients, you're swallowing intention, energy, and power. See, food carries life. It holds the ability to heal, to restore, to strengthen. But the same power that can build you can also destroy you if it's poisoned with a dark purpose. A witch knows this. She knows that the quickest way into your life, the fastest way to your spirit, is through what you consume. That's why you must guard your plate, because your body is a temple, and whatever enters it becomes part of you. When that food is charged with curses, it doesn't just sit in your stomach. It seeps into your spirit, it infects your mind, and it slowly rewires the way you think, feel, and act. Imagine trusting someone enough to eat what they prepare, never realizing that with each spoonful, you're accepting more than flavor. You're accepting their hidden will. You start feeling heavy, not just physically but spiritually. You lose motivation, confidence, clarity. You can't explain why you're suddenly struggling with depression, why your relationships begin to fracture, why success keeps slipping from your hands. But in truth, it's because you allowed someone with ill intent to feed your soul, not your body. And here's the danger most people don't realize. Curses through food rarely show themselves immediately. They unfold slowly, like venom creeping through your bloodstream, so you don't even suspect where the attack began. That is why spiritual awareness is not optional. It is survival. You must pray over your food. You must bless what you eat, and you must be discerning about who is allowed to cook for you. Because a witch doesn't need to shout spells or wave potions. She only needs you to trust her enough to take a bite. When most people sit down to eat, they think of food only as fuel: calories, protein, vitamins, the basics that keep the body going. But food is not just physical. Food is energy. It carries life within it. Every ingredient you touch has absorbed something: light, darkness, intention, prayer, or curse. And when you eat it, you're not simply feeding your stomach. You're absorbing the energy that meal was prepared with. That's why you can eat a simple home-cooked dish made with love and somehow feel comforted, at peace, and strengthened afterwards. It wasn't the spice, it wasn't the recipe, it was the energy placed into it. Now think of the opposite. Imagine eating something that looks delicious, smells incredible, and tastes rich, but the hands that prepared it carried anger, jealousy, hatred, or worse, a deliberate curse. That energy doesn't just stay on the surface of the food. It seeps into it, it becomes part of it, and when you swallow it, you're allowing that poison to mingle with your spirit. That is why so many people don't understand why they wake up with heaviness, why anxiety hits out of nowhere, why they feel as if something is dragging them down. Because food is a spiritual transaction, not just a physical one. When a witch cooks, she doesn't care about the flavor, she cares about the exchange. She knows the fastest way to infiltrate your soul is to wrap darkness in something you'll accept without resistance. She understands that if she can get you to consume what she has prepared, you've given her permission to plant her energy inside you. And most people don't even realize they've opened that door because they thought they were just eating a meal. This is why you must shift how you see food. It is not just survival. It is a carrier of power. It has the ability to heal, to restore, to strengthen, or to weaken, to poison, to bind. And the difference lies in the intention behind it. You cannot afford to be careless with what you consume, because every bite carries more than flavor. It carries energy that will either lift you or break you, And this is where intention becomes the weapon. Because food on its own is neutral, but the intention placed into it decides whether it becomes a blessing or a curse. A witch doesn't need a cauldron or dramatic rituals to affect your life. She only needs a cutting board, a pan, and the darkness inside her heart. When she stirs the pot, she's not just mixing ingredients. She's mixing words, desires, and energy. Every motion, every thought, every whispered curse is poured into that dish. By the time it reaches your plate, it's no longer just food. It's a delivery system for her intent. Think about it. Haven't you ever eaten something and felt unsettled afterward? Not because of indigestion or too much spice, but because something felt heavy, off, unexplainable. That's not coincidence, that's intention. That's the invisible fingerprint of the one who cooked it. If the person who prepared your meal carries resentment toward you, that resentment can become the seasoning. If they carry jealousy, that jealousy can become the sauce. And if they carry malice, that malice can become the very essence of what you swallow. This is why you can sit at a table surrounded by people smiling, laughing, pretending to share kindness, and still walk away feeling drained, sick, or strangely burdened. Because the food wasn't meant to nourish you, it was meant to weaken you. A witch knows that what enters your body becomes part of you, and she uses that truth to her advantage. She knows you'll trust the food on your plate more than the poison in her words, so she hides her weapon in what you willingly consume. And once you've eaten it, you've taken in more than flavor, you've taken in her intention. That is the real danger. Because you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it, and yet it's already inside you, silently shaping how you feel, how you think, how you move through the world. That's why being careless with food is one of the greatest vulnerabilities a person can have. Trust is the doorway that makes all of this possible. Because when you eat food prepared by someone else, you're not just filling your stomach. You're saying, I trust you enough to let something you made become part of me. And that act of trust is powerful. It's intimate. It's vulnerable. Most people don't even think twice about it. They accept a plate, take a bite, and never stop to realize the spiritual agreement they've just entered into. A witch counts on that. She doesn't have to fight you, doesn't have to confront you openly. All she has to do is get you to accept her offering, because once you do, you've opened the door for her to step inside without resistance. Think about how natural it feels to take food from family, from friends, from people you know. That's exactly why it works so well. A witch doesn't come to you as a stranger with obvious malice. She comes as someone familiar, someone you've let into your home, someone you wouldn't suspect. She hides behind that trust because she knows you won't question the food she gives you. And by the time you've eaten it, it's too late. You've allowed her energy into your life with your own permission. This is what makes it so dangerous, because you may never invite a witch into your circle if you knew her real intentions. You'd shut her out, refuse her access, but she doesn't need to kick down the door. She only needs you to set the table. Trust becomes the bridge, and food becomes the weapon she walks across. That's why you must be very careful who you let serve you, who you allow to cook for you, who you grant the privilege of feeding you. Because, in that moment, your trust is not just hospitality, it's vulnerability, and not everyone deserves that level of access to your spirit. The frightening part is that when you eat food cooked with dark intention, the effects don't explode all at once. They creep, they take root quietly, like a seed planted deep in the soil of your spirit. At first, you feel nothing. You think everything is fine. You laugh, you go about your day, and you believe there's no consequence. But curses are patient. They unfold slowly, and that's what makes them so effective. Because if the impact hit you instantly, you'd know the source. You'd push it away, you'd fight back, but when it drips into your life little by little, you don't even suspect where the attack began. One day you feel a strange heaviness you can't explain. Another day you wake up with no motivation, no drive, as if something has quietly stolen your fire. Weeks later, you notice relationships around you begin to fracture. Arguments happen for no reason. Opportunities slip through your hands, and you're left wondering, what is happening to me? You start questioning yourself, doubting your ability, doubting your worth, and all the while the poison is still spreading, disguised as ordinary life struggles. That's how it works. It's not a thunderstorm crashing down. It's a slow leak that floods your house while you're asleep. By the time you realize what's happening, the damage is already deep. That's why food prepared with dark intent is so dangerous. It hides itself. It doesn't announce its arrival. It doesn't shout. It whispers, it lingers. It settles inside you, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal its grip. And by then, breaking free feels almost impossible, because you don't even know where the chains came from. And when that poison starts to work its way through you, it rarely looks like something supernatural. It disguises itself as ordinary problems, so you never suspect the true source. Suddenly, you feel drained in ways that rest can't fix. You wake up tired, you carry a heaviness in your chest, your body aches without reason. The doctor can't explain it, the tests show nothing, but deep down you know something is off. That's not random, that's not coincidence, that's spiritual contamination, and it often begins with what you allowed into your body. Then it goes deeper, your mind starts to fog, the clarity you once had turns into confusion. You can't focus, can't make sharp decisions, and the confidence you used to carry feels like it's slipping away. Opportunities come, but somehow they slip through your fingers. Doors that were open suddenly close. Relationships you once valued begin to crack. Misunderstandings appear out of nowhere. The people closest to you begin to pull away, and you don't even know why. This is how cursed food manifests. It attacks your spirit first, but eventually it shows up in every part of your life. Depression creeps in. Anxiety follows. You feel unmotivated, as if something invisible has pressed down on your shoulders, holding you back from rising to your full strength. And because it unfolds so naturally, you blame yourself, you think it's just bad luck or stress or life being unfair. But in reality, you're fighting against something you unknowingly consumed. That's why this battle is so dangerous, because it doesn't announce itself. It hides in plain sight. You feel the symptoms, but you miss the cause. And until you recognize that what you ate carried darkness, you'll keep treating the surface problems while the real poison remains untouched. And the truth is, the people who try to bind you through food don't come wearing masks of evil or announcing their intentions. They come as the familiar. They come as the ones you think you can trust. Sometimes it's a friend who smiles too wide, a neighbor who insists on sharing a dish, or even a family member who hides jealousy behind kindness. That's how witches move. They cloak themselves in closeness because they know you'll never question their offering. Who stops to suspect the meal from a relative, who doubts the cake baked by a friend. That familiarity is the camouflage that makes the attack invisible. It's not the stranger you should worry about. It's the one who knows how to get close enough to your table, to your kitchen, to your plate. That's the person who can slip past your guard, and they understand human nature. They know that love and trust disarm you faster than any weapon. You'll pray against enemies you see coming, but you rarely pray against the ones who look like they care. That's the exact blind spot they exploit, and what makes it worse is that these people know your weaknesses. They know your habits, your tastes, your celebrations. They offer food not because they want to share joy, but because they know you'll accept it without suspicion. They mask jealousy as generosity, hatred as hospitality. You think you're accepting kindness, but what you're really accepting is an attack designed specifically for you. That's why so many never realize they've been targeted, because it came wrapped in familiarity, dressed as family, disguised as friendship. Once you swallow that food, your body becomes the gateway. It's no longer just about flavor or nourishment. What you consumed begins to move deeper, beyond your stomach, beyond your bloodstream, into your very spirit. Because food doesn't stop at digestion, it doesn't remain only in the physical. It becomes part of your life force, part of your energy, part of who you are. That's why eating food cooked with dark intent is so dangerous. It's like opening every door inside yourself and handing over the keys. Think about this. When you eat something wholesome, you feel it. A bowl of soup made with love from a grandmother has a different effect than fast food thrown together carelessly. One fills you not only with nutrients, but with warmth, comfort, and peace. That's because food is a carrier. It carries the intention of the person who made it. Now imagine what happens when the one cooking for you doesn't carry love, but malice. When she doesn't season the dish with care, but with curses. That energy doesn't stay in the pot. It fuses into the food, and when you take it into your body, you're taking her darkness into yourself. And it doesn't just rest in your stomach. It travels. It finds places in your spirit to settle. It looks for cracks, insecurities, wounds, and it latches onto them. You start noticing changes in how you think. Doubts rise up where there used to be confidence. Fear takes root where there used to be courage. A witch doesn't need to argue with you or shout lies in your face. She can whisper through the food you ate. That whisper becomes your new inner voice, and you start to believe it's your own thought. That's how dangerous this is. The body becomes the delivery system. You might see it as just eating, but spiritually, you're opening yourself to infiltration. Every cell in your body begins to carry traces of that energy. You feel weaker physically. You lose motivation emotionally. You feel unstable spiritually. You may even experience dreams filled with confusion, darkness, or oppression, because the food you consumed didn't just fill your belly, it carried an assignment into your soul. And the witch knows this. She knows she doesn't need to confront you publicly. She doesn't need to declare war on you openly. All she needs is for you to accept her food. Once you do, your own body becomes her weapon. She uses your trust, your appetite, your very biology against you. That's why some people spend years fighting battles they can't explain, because they don't realize they're fighting against something they ingested. When cursed food seeps into your spirit, it starts to rewire your internal world. Suddenly, you're anxious for no reason. You're battling temptations that never used to control you. You're angry without understanding why. You look at your life and wonder why nothing seems to move forward. That's because you're not just fighting external challenges. You're fighting a curse that has embedded itself inside you. It's no longer around you. It's within you. That is the power of food as a gateway. And this is where many people go wrong. They think spiritual attacks are always loud, dramatic, and obvious. They imagine rituals, chanting, or hexes cast under the moon. They don't consider that the simplest, most innocent-looking act, sharing a meal, could be the most effective weapon. Because food is trust, food is intimacy, and once it enters your body, it bypasses all the defenses you thought you had. You can guard your home, you can guard your mind, You can guard your finances, but if you don't guard your plate, you've left the gate wide open. Now imagine how subtle this trap is. You sit at a table, surrounded by laughter and conversation, and you take a bite. You think nothing of it, but in that moment, you've allowed a spiritual transaction to take place. You've consumed more than bread or meat. You've consumed intention. And that intention will either build you or break you. That's why people walk away from certain gatherings feeling lighter, stronger, more inspired. The food carried love, joy, generosity, but others walk away feeling drained, heavy, or sick because what they consumed carried envy, curses, or darkness. This is why awareness is everything. You can't afford to treat food as just food. It's more than nutrition. It's spiritual access. You need to ask yourself who cooked this, what spirit did they carry, what intention was in their heart as they prepared this meal. Because the moment you take it in, you've allowed their energy to become part of you. And let's be real, this isn't about paranoia, it's about wisdom. Not everyone deserves access to your spirit. Not everyone should be allowed to put their hands on what enters your body. Because once it's in, it's in. Once it crosses that gateway, it becomes far harder to remove. That's why some people can trace the beginning of their downfall back to a moment that seemed so small an innocent meal, a friendly offering, a bite taken without thought. And that one moment opened the door to years of struggle. Food is sacred. It's one of the most powerful connectors between the physical and spiritual. That's why ancient traditions bless their meals. That's why prayers are said before eating, because wise people understood long ago that what you eat is more than survival, it's communion. And if it can be communion with light, it can also be communion with darkness. A witch knows this truth and weaponizes it. She counts on your lack of awareness. She counts on you believing it's just food, but it's not. It's access. It's influence. It's an open door to your inner world. So when you eat food cooked with curses, your body becomes the entry point, the gateway, the passage that allows darkness to move from the outside world into your inner life. And until you recognize that, you'll never understand why certain battles keep repeating themselves. Because you're not just fighting what's around you, you're fighting what's inside you, something you unknowingly allowed in with your own hands, your own appetite, your own trust. That's why you must guard your plate like you guard your future, because what you consume has the power to strengthen your destiny or sabotage it from within. And once it crosses that gateway, you're not just dealing with food, you're dealing with the spirit behind it. This is why discernment is everything, because not every smile is genuine, and not every act of kindness is rooted in love. Some people feed you because they want to see you flourish, but others feed you because they want to watch you fall. And if you don't sharpen your discernment, you won't know the difference until it's too late. You'll accept every plate, every dish, every offering, thinking it's harmless, when in truth you're handing someone the power to enter your life at its most vulnerable point. Discernment means you don't just look at the food, you look at the source, who prepared it, what spirit did they carry, what history do they have with you, how do you feel in their presence, because your spirit knows before your mind does. You've felt it before. You sat across from someone, they smiled, they were polite, but something inside you whispered, something's off here. That whisper is your inner warning system, and if you ignore it, you're silencing your greatest line of defense. The strongest people are not those who accept everything blindly. The strongest people are the ones who have the courage to say no. No to the plate that doesn't feel right. No to the offering that comes from hands that don't carry love. No to the kind of hospitality that feels more like manipulation than care. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Because you're not rejecting food, you're rejecting the energy behind it. A witch thrives on the naive, the ones who think every gesture is safe, every act of kindness is pure. But discernment pulls the mask away. Discernment teaches you to look beyond what's being offered and see the spirit behind it. It teaches you that not every invitation deserves acceptance, not every meal deserves to be eaten, and not every person deserves a seat at your table. And that's not paranoia, that's protection, because discernment doesn't just keep poison out of your body, it keeps darkness out of your life. It allows you to stand strong and say, I don't care how good this looks, I don't care how well it's presented. If my spirit says no, I'm not touching it. That level of strength is what protects your destiny. That is what separates those who get trapped by curses from those who rise above them untouched. And this is why prayer is not a ritual you rush through before a meal. It is a weapon, it is a shield, it is your line of defense against what you cannot see. Because when you pray over your food, you are not just saying words, you are declaring ownership. You are saying, this no longer belongs to the one who cooked it. This belongs to me and to God who blesses it. Prayer strips away the hidden intentions. It neutralizes curses. It disarms the energy meant to harm you. It takes what was designed for your destruction and transforms it into something that cannot touch you. Too many people underestimate this. They think blessing their food is a formality, something old-fashioned or unnecessary. But they don't realize that when you ignore prayer, you're eating blind. You're exposing yourself to whatever energy is attached to that plate. You're hoping for safety instead of declaring it. A witch counts on that. She counts on you forgetting to bless your food because she knows an unprotected meal is an open door. But when you speak life over your plate, when you call upon God to sanctify it, something shifts. The unseen is disrupted. What was poisoned spiritually is purified. What was meant to weaken you is broken before it can even touch your spirit. And you don't have to pray with fancy words. You only need faith and authority. A simple declaration like, every curse is broken, this food is blessed, it will only bring life to me, carries more power than any hidden intention placed into that meal. Because prayer is not passive, it's active, it confronts darkness head on, it reminds you that while others may try to plant evil, you have the ability to uproot it before it takes hold. And the more you make this a habit, the stronger you become. You stop living in fear of what's on your plate, because you know you have the authority to cleanse it. You stop second-guessing every offering, because you've trained yourself to cover it with protection. This is the discipline that separates those who fall victim from those who rise above. The difference is not luck, it's preparation. The ones who thrive are not the ones who never face attacks. They're the ones who know how to counter them. And prayer is that counterattack. It's the moment you take control back from the one who tried to slip poison into your life. It's the act of saying, I will not be fooled, I will not be weakened, I will not be touched by darkness through something as simple as a meal. And this is why guarding your table is guarding your life. Too many people think it's rude to refuse food, too paranoid to question who's cooking, too dramatic to say no. But let me tell you, your future is worth more than their opinion, because one careless bite can shift the course of your destiny. One unguarded moment can open the door to years of struggle you never saw coming. The same way you lock your house at night, the same way you guard your finances, the same way you protect your family, you must protect what goes into your body. Because what feeds you will either fuel your purpose or sabotage it. Guarding your table is not about fear, it's about discipline. It's about understanding that not everyone who offers you something has earned the right to feed you. Some people feed you to strengthen you, Others feed you to bind you. And when you allow anyone access to your plate, you are saying, I trust you with my life. That's not a privilege to hand out carelessly. That's not a gift to give just because someone insists. That's a sacred exchange, and only those who truly carry love, purity, and light deserve it. If you want to live strong, if you want to live free, you must learn to say no. No to the food that feels wrong. No to the people whose spirit doesn't align with yours. No to the meals that come wrapped in false kindness but carry hidden poison. Because every time you protect your table, you're not just guarding your appetite. You're guarding your mind, your heart, your spirit, your future. And here's the truth. The ones who succeed in life are not the ones who say yes to everything. They're the ones who know when to say no. They understand that boundaries are strength, not weakness. They understand that discernment is survival, not paranoia. They understand that what you allow into your life, even through something as small as food, has the power to build your destiny or destroy it. So guard your table. Guard it with awareness. Guard it with prayer. Guard it with courage. Because the meals you choose to accept or reject today may very well determine the strength, the freedom, and the victories you walk in tomorrow. So if there is one thing I want you to take away from this, it's this: never underestimate the power of what you consume, because food is not just about filling your stomach, it's about shaping your spirit, your energy, your future. A witch understands this and uses it as her weapon, but you don't have to live in fear. You have the power to choose. You have the ability to discern. You have the authority to bless and protect everything that enters your body. Guard your table as fiercely as you guard your destiny. Don't let familiarity blind you. Don't let politeness disarm you. And don't let carelessness make you vulnerable. The strength of your life depends on what you allow in. And every bite is either building you or breaking you. Choose wisely, stand strong, and remember, the enemy doesn't always come with fire and fury sometimes. It comes with a smile and a plate. But when you are aware, when you are disciplined, and when you are covered in prayer, no curse, no hidden intention, and no darkness can ever take root inside you.